Hello and welcome back to Satisfactory. In our last episode, we explored out into the Dune Desert and found a large collection of hard drives. I think it was about 9 or so out there and in the adjacent areas. Brought back all those hard drives, did some research on them, and we need to do some more research on the rest of them. So we have heavy flexible frame again. We already have what I consider to be the best alternate recipe for this heavy modular frame, which is the alternate recipe 1 down there. It just all over seems better to me than any of the other ones in the game. I looked, so we're gonna stick with the one we have. Pure quartz crystal could be worthwhile, but I don't know. On the other hand, 5 pocket or expanded pocket dimension, which is 5 inventory slots, is also not all that great of an idea at this point. I would rather spend it on something that's a blueprint. So I think we're just going to take this one. At least it's something we might use. Alright, so let's do another hard drive research. When I got back, I gathered up the materials we needed for the bauxite refinement, which is up here. 200 motors, 100 computers, and 100 of the large frames, or the reinforced, the heavy frames. So we're going to actually get that unlocked now. That'll free up a few slots in our inventory as well.
Milestone reached. Quartz and bauxite scanning unlocked. A new generation of basic aluminum parts is now available, which can be constructed from bauxite after a complex process of refinement. Additionally, improved conveyor belts and lifts can now be constructed.
So, we got, let's see, I think it's just here, and yeah, we got conveyor belts and lifts Mark V, which require the alkylate aluminum sheets. Aluminium, for those of you in Europe. And so, we can't get those yet until we start working on bauxite refinement. As Ada indicated, it is a very, very complicated process. So we're going to have to do some serious work in order to get that going. Bauxite is way, way, way to the south. Like, it's in the middle of the map. It's kind of across the center of the map. Almost directly due south from here if it returns the scan. There it is. Yeah, 1,567 meters. There's one over there. In between these two pings, there's probably, I think there's 4 nodes in between those two pings. Let me see. Yeah, due south. Yeah, so there's this one over here is a pure node, and there's at least 2, maybe 3 here that are impure and normal. And then, actually, in fact, there's another pure node in that vague direction as well. So, but between those 2 pings, there should be 4 or 5 nodes in a relatively small area. In a place I haven't explored yet, which also contains a large number of hard drives. Most of those hard drives, though, require stuff we don't have made yet because we need the aluminum to make them. So the first thing I want to do today is I want to look at if there's anything else we can set up a manufacturer or an assembler or a constructor for that we need to make. Let's look at the constructor first. We're making, obviously we're going to make the steel screws. We're not making the steel screws just yet, but we're making screws is the point. We're making all 3 of these items. We're making these items. So the only things we have here that we haven't set up are things like charcoal and biocoal, which I'm not that concerned about. Color cartridges and spiked rebar, also not that concerned about. And power shards, also I'm just going to make those by hand. So basically these entire sections here are all going to be made. I'm not going to make these, but if we end up doing colors, those I'll all make by hand, I think. Setting them up just doesn't seem like it's worth it to me. The assembler, I can't remember which modular frame is the one that I like. So we might end up using one of these 2 other ones. Let's see. 12 rods is 48 screws. So this is more screws, but that means that it's also faster. It's this is 2 modular frames every 60 seconds, whereas this one is 2 modular frames every 24 seconds. The steeled frame, that makes 3, so that's fewer sheets. That might be worth it. I really want to get that steel recipe, though, that we don't have yet. The rotors, I also want to look at which rotor is the best to make. Let's see, we have 5 rods plus 25 screws. 25 screws is just over 6 rods. So that ends up being just over 11 iron ingots. The copper rotor uses some of the copper sheets plus 13 for 3. This is for 1. So that's already quite efficient. This is also 1. It uses some copper wire and 2 pipes. 2 pipes, I think, are 2 steel ingots, which means effectively 2 iron. So that's also not a bad deal. Not sure which one's actually better. Probably this one is cheaper on the iron front, at least, and it's also cheaper on the copper front. Let me look at that. Where's that called? Foundry. That's what it's called. Let me double check my steel recipe here. Well, there's where we make the aluminum ingots. They're made out of aluminum scrap and silica. So steel ingots is, 1 iron, 1 coal makes 1 steel ingot. And then at the constructor, steel pipes are, no, they're 3 ingots makes 2 pipes. So they're 2/3 of an ingot each, not 1. No, 1.5 ingots each, not 1. Where steel is 4-to-1, right? Or steel beams. Okay, so back here we go. So that would be 2. That's 3 iron versus 13 iron, and then the copper cable is 1-to-2, and the copper sheets are 2-to-1. So 4 copper wire equals 1 copper sheet. So that's way cheaper on copper too. So steel rotors might be the way we go. The issue here is that we need to have more. We would need to have more coal, and right now the only way to get more coal in is to either belt it from a very long distance, which is of course possible, to overclock the ones we have, or to get trains going. Getting trains going is definitely compelling to me, because of the, they're trains. Let's see. What else do we have? I think that's about it here. These are the space elevator things. We're going to switch over to the silicon circuit boards, because we have those 2 pure quartz nodes. And I think there's even more quartz not too far away. Yeah, into the rocky desert. There's another pure and another normal. And we only have the ones we have clocked at Mark 1, or mining at Mark 1. So we definitely have more quartz we can take advantage of. Let's see, what else do we have? Fabric, I'm not that worried about. The fine black powder, I think the difference here was that it uses compacted coal, which means that it uses 1 coal, 1 sulfur, I think, to make 1 compacted coal. Yes, 5 to 5 is 5. So that's 3 sulfur and 1 coal. If we use an extra assembler, 3 sulfur and 1 coal make 4, as opposed to 1 coal, 2 sulfur make 1. So that's definitely a boon, especially on the coal front, since we're talking about maybe making a lot more steel. Saving coal in the end is not a bad idea. Also, as we set up more and more petroleum related stuff, we can convert over to using more petroleum based power and using less coal power like we are right now. Alright, so that's it for the assembler. And then finally the manufacturer. Well, not finally, because we should probably also look at the refinery. But for the this is the encased heavy frame. This is the one we want to use. It makes 3 instead of 1, so it uses far fewer pipes and encased industrial beams and regular frames than the other one, and it uses a small amount, relatively, of concrete instead of using 100 screws, which means we don't need all those constructors making screws out of either iron or steel. So we'll definitely want to switch over to this one. I'm more and more tempted to set cartridges up because you need so many of them, but right now with the limited inventory I have, I can't really carry that many anyway. Finally, we are making these 2 items. There are alternate recipes for both of these out there, so we'll want to take a look for those. And then the high-speed connectors versus silicon high-speed connectors. It's 1 versus 2, so this is definitely cheaper on the Caterium wire. Instead of using 10 cable, which is 20 wire, it uses 25 silica. Especially if we start doing that alternate iron ingot recipe that uses some copper, we could feed some of the copper then into making iron instead of making so much copper cable. So that's a possibility. It is definitely more efficient on the Caterium side, and since some of the other recipes require more Caterium, I think it's worth it to minimize the amount. And Caterium's a little bit further away, not that far, but we are only using 1 of the Caterium mines still. I do still need to set that up. So the next thing would be let's go back to the foundry briefly. Right now we can only make 4 things at the foundry, and this is the iron alloy I was talking about, which is 2 iron and 2 copper make 5 ingots, so that's a boon overall. And especially if we get the copper version of this, then I think we'll be doing in really good shape. I have the wrong shoes on here. Let me put the Caterium shoes on, and we'll head back over here because it's time. The Caterium circuit boards require 10 plastic and 30 Caterium to make 7. Comparing that to the silica one that I liked, it's slower. I think I like the silica and copper sheet one the best. So I'm going to pass on this. Seismic nobelisks. So they make 4. So it uses a lot fewer black powder, a lot fewer pipes per. Yeah, because there's only 2 pipes per, 2 black powder per, but you have to throw in a crystal oscillator every 40 seconds. I don't see a problem with that one, that's for sure. Alternatively, we can look at this polymer resin recipe. Polymer resin is used for making plastic and rubber, I think. What this does, I think we had this one before. We looked at this one before. So this one outputs, for 6 crude oil, this outputs a lot more polymer resin and a lot less heavy oil residue. I'm leaning towards using the recycled plastic, recycled rubber recipes, so I'm going to pass on this one. So I think we'll take the Nobelisk one, even though right now we're not going to use it. I think we'll just go ahead and take it. And start again. So I think the next few episodes are going to be a lot more exploration, because we need to get, or can be a lot more exploration, because we need to get out and get get some more hard drives, because I really want to get these recipes going. Let me know in the comments whether you want to see the exploration or you want me to just do it. Also, let me know if you want to see and hear my monologue about the hard drive research, or if you want me to just do it. I'm interested in how you guys feel about the exploration and the hard drive researching and the choices I'm making and hearing my explanations for them or not. So we have the recycled rubber already. We don't have recycled plastic yet. Residual fuel is just making fuel from... So one of the things we could do with this is instead of converting that heavy oil residue right now as we're doing to coke, we could take that. So that's 4 going into 12 petroleum coke. Petroleum coke has a fuel value. Excuse me for just a second while I look. Petroleum coke has a fuel value of 180 megajoules per piece. Fuel, where the liquid's at, fuel has a fuel value of 0.6 megajoules per liter. One of these is so that's 4,000 liters, which means that 1 unit of fuel, which is 1,000 liters, 1 cubic meter is 1,000 liters, has a fuel value of 600 megajoules. So one fuel is worth 1, 2, 3 1/3 petroleum coke. Hopefully this math is right since I'm winging it. So six residual fuel, or heavy oil residue rather, versus 4. So 4 is 12 times 180 is 2160. Yes, and so then this is 4 times 600, which is 2400. But that uses 50% more, so the same amount of heavy oil as this would only be useful for 2/3 of 2400, which is 1600. So this is actually more efficient as far as converting. Comparing the two recipes that convert heavy oil directly into some burnable fuel. Actually, heavy oil is technically burnable too. I think it has a fuel value of 0.4 megajoules. I don't know if you can feed it into the fuel burners or not, but it does have an energy value of 0.4 per liter. So that's 400 per unit. So this is converting 1600 into 12 times 180. I did do that math right? I guess I should get a calculator out. 12 times 180 is 2160. So this is actually a growth. Where are we at? This is actually a growth of quite a bit of energy, whereas this is stagnant. This just converts it into a burnable fuel for sure. It doesn't give us any boost. So the petroleum coke's actually a boost, which is nice. Residual rubber, residual plastic. Use that polymer resin that we turned down, making the getting alternate recipe 4. I think we turned it down. I don't even remember now. And makes plastic. This makes plastic and heavy oil residue. This is what we're making right now. These are just packaging, or unpackaging rather, items that are packaged. This is one idea of what I can do to get water up to where we could do some of the refining processes. Instead of making all of the refining down at the coast, or especially like these here, especially the pure ingots, we could belt the water up using a very fast belt. I'd have to do some math on that because the pipes will move 300 cubic meters per minute, so that's 100. This is This takes 2 meters and makes, takes 2 cubic meters. No, this takes 2 canisters and makes 2 cubic meters. This takes 2 cubic meters and makes 2 canisters. So that's 150. That's only a little over a Mark II belt. A pipe is just over 1 Mark II belt. So that's actually not very bad as far as throughput, and that might be worth it to belt the water in. Even the way we're piping in the oil from over on the coast over there someplace, to belt in the water and even belt in the oil, because we could package the oil right out there. That's an idea. Because again, this is 2, which is 100 and... No, wait. I messed up the math. You need more than a Mark III belt, because you need to be able to move 300 units, 300 cubic meters of oil. And a Mark II belt, or Mark III belt is 270. So you need to be able to move just over a Mark III belt in to replace a pipe. That's not a bad idea. The expense there is the fact that you are that you're spending money on, or spending electricity on the refinery itself, which is not. It takes 30 megawatts, so that's 60 megawatts that you are. Oh well, actually maybe more, because you may have to. This only produces 30. Yeah, there's the problem. These are slow. This only produces 30 oil per minute. So in order to produce a whole pipe's worth of oil, you'd have to have 10 of these. So that means that that's 300 megawatts on each end. So there's the problem with belting it in. Alternatively, logistics, pipeline pump. Oops, that's not what I want. I just wanted to look at it, not click it. That's 4 megawatts to go up 20 meters. So even if we brought this all the way up to where I'm talking about doing my smelting, which is 20 meters above this level, that's from the water, which is maybe 20 meters below zero. That's only 140, which is only 7 pumps. So that's only 28 megawatts total. So that's way more efficient per pipe of anything, any fluid. Are you almost done? A minute and a half left. Okay. So that's kind of where I'm at. Maybe I will revert and just pipe the water over. We could do. I mean, I have that pipeline coming through this chasm here already. You could just do stackable pipelines and pump water from out there in the ocean along this line, and bring the water into the base and just pump it up into the air however high I wanted it. I guess the flaw in that is instead of using just smelters, which cost well, they cost 4 megawatts, and just for iron, let's say, they produce 30 parts per minute, so 4 megawatts per 30 parts, whereas this and this, oh, okay, well, this copper is the same. This produces slightly more copper, uses a lot less copper ore, but it's going to use 30 megawatts to produce only slightly more. So unless we are starved out on a resource here, and I mean, Caterium might be the case, the quartz might be the case, even the iron or the copper sheets might be the case, but I want to be real careful about wasting power here in the short term, or in the plans for something that we didn't really need because we have plenty available. And we have these 2 pure copper nodes. I think they're both pure here. Check. They both pure. Yeah, they're both pure. And then we have an untapped normal node down to the far end of the base that we haven't even tapped yet. So those are all right up close, and we can obviously bring in more either via train or belt as well if we wanted to. So I'm going to be wary about using the using these recipes down here for that reason. Until we have a massive amount of power, which means more oil refining, I'm not going to do that. And plus, we need to use a lot of power to process aluminum. So I think that's a better option. What other buildings do we have we can look at? I think that's pretty much it. These are just extractors. These are effectively just extractors. Smelters and foundries. Yeah, that's it. So even actually that iron alloy recipe that's made at the foundry. I might have already had a foundry built, but we'll call it anyway. This uses 4 times the energy to make less than double. It makes about 2/3 more iron ingots per minute. So, I mean, you're trading off power for output, but I want to be careful with it. Let's see. Interesting. Pure aluminum ingots. We can trade in. Oh, that's interesting. We can go 12 aluminum scrap plus default is 12 aluminum scrap plus 7 silica equals 4 aluminum at 80 per minute. So this one's a lot slower, but it doesn't require the silica. Since I'm planning on doing all the processing here with all the quartz we have here and otherwise nearby, I'm not that bothered by this. And there are also a couple of quartz nodes out by where the bauxite is, so we could bring in quartz with the bauxite too, for that matter. Yeah. So let's see. We have recycled plastic. That's a guarantee. We're definitely taking this one. So this episode was largely just planning and discussion about, okay, well, what do we do kind of next? I'm going to be spending some time off camera trying to figure out exactly what alternate recipes I'm looking for, which ones I want to use. I'm going to try and keep in mind some of the power stuff, but in the end, as long as we can mine a lot of oil, we can have as much power as we want, and then eventually we'll get to uranium refining, and then we can have a nuclear power plant, and then it's a lot closer to who cares. So, I think that's about where I'm going to leave it today, which is a little bit shorter of an episode than normal. But I think we also got here to the point where we could get... Oh, this is actually done. I have 56 coupons, plus the 4 that I had already, so we have 60 coupons to spend. So we'll need to do that soon as well, because I want to take some of these foundations, some more decorative type of stuff. And then maybe some of the walls and the wall attachments. I'm not going to buy equipment except maybe the cup just to say that I have it. And I'm not going to buy the parts because we can make the parts. Statues are definitely, but they require a lot of coupons. So, especially the golden nut. So I think that's where I'm going to focus on this is the foundations that I want first, which is going to be definitely the double ramps and definitely the inverted ramps. And then from there, maybe walls and attachments, decorative type of stuff. So anyway, so that's where I think we're going to leave it for today. We looked at what we have for recipes. I'm going to look at what else is available alternate recipe-wise. Let me know in the comments what you think about the exploration episodes and or doing the hard drive researching on camera, and then I can make the next episodes accordingly. If we don't do those episodes, I may end up having to skip days, just because I'll have to spend a lot of time doing it. So keep that in mind with your answers, because if you would rather me just release an episode and show off the exploration that I'm doing instead of not releasing an episode, then I'm more than willing to do that. So anyway, I think that's going to be it for today. Thank you all for joining me. and I will see you next time. Bye for now.